congratulations on this film. What initially attracted you to this project of the Golem?
When me and my brother, which we directed this movie together, we were looking for the next project, and we always like to deal with the dark side of mysticism and the dark mythologies. And we started looking into the Judaism mythologies, and we found the story of the Golem, which almost every kid is growing up in Israel about this story. It's like the Jewish boogeyman, in a way. So we started researching, and we realized that nobody ever did a movie about the Golem for almost 100 years. So for us, it was mind-blowing and we knew this is the project we want to do. You saw the Golem in some TV stuff and episodes, but there was never a really, a proper feature film dealing with the Golem. And in a nutshell, the Golem is like a Jewish Frankenstein story. There is actually a real recipe in the Kabbalah books when you can take mud and clay and water and put some spells together, and you can actually build your own, and it comes to life. You can build your own Golem.
I didn't realize the Golem was a Jewish lore, because I thought it was just based off of Frankenstein.
You could say the other way around. You can say, because it's like 500 years old, this story. So you can only say that the Mary Shelley maybe was based on the Golem story, because it was before the Frankenstein story. But yeah, it's a very ancient story. It's like every basic Jewish story. It's like they tried to kill us, we survived. And that's the basic Jewish stories all the time. So the Golem story is about this rabbi. It's not the story of the movie, but the story of the basic story is very simple. This rabbi created this Golem to protect the Jewish village from the foreigners, and this creature saved the town, but eventually lost control and became too wild, so we had to kill it. So we wanted to do a variation of that. It's based on this mythology, but it's a different story.
So there was a lore about someone creating a golem long time ago, centuries ago.
Yeah, it's like the mythology around the Golem, the story, the basic story is like super ancient. It's 500 years, I think.
So when did you first heard of it? Was it when you were a child?
Yeah, I think every child in Israel growing up, it's like growing up on this story. In a way, the Golem is like, it's not a curse, but when you want to say to someone, like, you have no brain in your head, you say, oh, you Golem. So that's like the meaning in Israel. But everybody knows this story, obviously. Yeah.
Tell me the development of the Golem itself for the movie. I mean, how did you want to make the Golem look?
Okay, so when we started writing the script, obviously the Golem originally is like a big giant monster made of clay and mud, and we didn't want to make like a B movie with a creature feature dealing with that. So we started to think, what's the dramatic, nice angle to deal with this subject, and we came up with the idea with a kid, a Golem kid, and that's how we built this story around it, which is much more dramatic, much more touching, about a couple losing his baby. His kid is in an accident and now dealing with grief, try to get over this tragedy, and for whatever reason there is, she needs the woman creates her own Golem as a replacement for the child. So, and this was the much more compelling and much more emotional angle for us. So
you were trying to create some empathy with the child Golem.
Yeah, because it's hard to break sympathy and empathy with a giant creature. That's why I think the reactions are so good for this movie, because people are really touched with this movie, because it's eventually it's a dark drama. It's about parenthood, it's about raising kids and grief.
Everything else about the Golem, I mean, this Golem is not just a lumbering giant, statue that just go around. You gave the Golem special powers. Is that just something that you guys just made up?
Yeah, actually, this is something we added, because in the original story, the Golem is super strong, it's like a superhero, but it doesn't have supernatural powers. We added this element because we liked it. We think it's cool. It's like much more of a nice spice to it. So he can control his impact on the environment is much bigger, not just by touching things. His energy, the Kabbalistic dark energy around him.
So honestly, is the Golem sort of like good or evil in its own way?
It's a good. I think that's the basic question we're dealing in this movie. Like, what's it like to play God, to create life? Will it turn out to be a good creature? Will it turn out to be a bad creature? It's a hybris, it's like it's a sin in a way. Like, I don't think God will like people to play God, and the parallel to that is women, that they create life. When you think about it, it's such an amazing thing that creating life and creating a baby. So. I think the question if it's bad or not, I think it depends on how you look at it. In a way, yeah, it's a sin. It's like every story needs, like, there's a sin and there's the result of it. So I don't think we should play God and do this.
So it had very similar themes to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. After
Yeah. The same motives, same elements in a way. A different kind of story, different angle, but the elements or the theme is the same. Mm-hmm. Like, what's it like to create life from nothing?
Tell me about the setting where you actually filmed this production.
Yeah.
Where was this at?
Okay, so we shot the movie in the Ukraine. It's an Israeli production, but we shot it in the Ukraine, in like an hour and a half from Kiev. We were there like a month and a half, and it was a crazy experience for us because it was in the middle of nowhere, like in the middle of the field. There was this film studio that the Ukrainian built for the Russian TV show, and it just stands there completely deserted. And we just came in and we found this. The setting was almost there, and we built this Jewish town around it. Mm-hmm. It's called the shtetl, a traditional Jewish old town.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing experience because we worked with locals that doesn't know a word in English. Most of them don't know English. So it's working with the translators, and the communication is a lot of with hands and gestures. It was very interesting, but they were amazing. They were amazing professionals.
So you didn't want to base this like around like Israel or anything like that. So we're talking about like Ukrainian and Russian Jews, that type of lore for this setting.
Yeah, we wanted this. This story is based in Eastern Europe. It's not an Israeli story. It's not in Jerusalem or something like that. It's based in Eastern Europe. There was a lot of Jewish villages there. There's a big Jewish community there. There was. So yeah, a lot of the Jewish folklore comes from Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm. When you did the special effects, you mainly I couldn't tell, was it more practical or more CGI?
Okay, so there's a lot of action in this movie.
There is.
So we did it. We wanted it to be a good and smart combination between practical effects and CG. Obviously, you always need CG effects, computer effects. But if you rely only on computer effects, unless you're James Cameron, and even if that, it always needs to be combined with practical effects when you're shooting practical stuff. So I think we did a smart combination between both. There's a lot of stunts there, and horses and fire, and a lot of pyrotechnics, but it always has this secret element that you don't really can put your finger on it, but it's accelerated with the CG, with the computer graphics.
Now, you directed this film with your brother. I want to know what the process of that. Usually, some people don't like to work with their own siblings on the same project.
Yeah, I'm working with my brother. We co-directed it, and we're doing this for like 20 years now. I know it for 40 years now. Our father is a film director, and our grandfather was a theater director. So we were born and raised. As kids, we were always on sets and stuff. I think it's easier in a way, because even if it's my brother and we fight, it's not that everything's we fight and we argue, but I think it's good for the process. If you you can handle your ego good enough, it's eventually good for the process, because if we don't agree on something, each one needs to justify his own idea, and it eventually the result is better. Mm-hmm. It's always, you can find a third way to solve it. So this clash is good, I think.
So you don't take turns directing, is what you're trying to tell me. Both of you are on the set at the same time.
Yeah. It's not like the Coen brothers. Like, I think one is more screenwriter, one is more directing. No, we do everything together. I think it happens naturally on set when one is taking a step forward for the actors and directing the actors, and the other one takes a step back to deal with the technical crew. The only rule we have is that two rules. We never argue and shout on sets between us. And the second rule is that only one of us talks to the actors, because that's the delicate part, and you don't want to give, different instructions. So we do it very delicate with the actors.
So which one talks more to the actors, you or your brother?
Yeah, it depends. It's 50-50. It's like whoever feels more secure with the scene takes a step forward, and the other one takes back. There's not a separation in that.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I do wonder is, since this is technically a Jewish lore, a Jewish story, and so on, why did you want to make it as an English film? Good
question. The reason we want to make this an English-speaking movie, this is our third feature film. We did the first one was called Forbidillion. It was Hebrew-speaking. It was an art house, psychological art house movie. It was very successful. Critics really loved this movie, and festivals, Toronto, Berlinale, all the big festivals. But at the end of the day, when you count how many people really saw your movie, you realize that when you do a Hebrew-speaking movie, there's not a lot of audience, because obviously it's limited. Once the second feature film, we decided to do it in English. It's called Jerusalem. It's about zombies in Jerusalem. It was English-speaking. And we realized that, okay, we can approach so much more audience here. And the second feature film did an amazing tour with Netflix and 30-something countries, and millions of people saw this movie. So we said, okay, eventually you want to make movies for the audience. So this was why I decided that the third film is going to be also English speaking.
So you wanted more eyes to watch your film.
I think every artist eventually wants more eyes on your piece of art. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I also want to ask is, obviously, since this is a Jewish-based film, do you find it difficult to gather an audience? Because a lot of people aren't familiar with these type of stories, especially like the Golem.
Yeah. Although the Golem is a Jewish mythology, I would like to think that it's a universal story eventually, because every culture deals with their own demons. Like I go a lot for horror film festivals, and you meet a lot of directors. So everyone you meet a Scandinavian director and he's doing like their dark mythology. You meet an African director and he's dealing with their. But eventually the stories are universal. You can call it a boogeyman, you can call it Frankenstein, you can call it a golem. But eventually the basic stories in every culture, all of the people in the world just love stories. Mm-hmm. So I would like to think that the Golem is universal. Although it's based on Jewish mythology, everyone can relate to it because eventually it's a monster story.
Mm-hmm. Are you a big fan of horror? I mean, this is in its own way supernatural horror, and your last movie was too.
We like horror movies. I wouldn't say we're like super the hardcore fans. We watch a lot of horror movies, but I think me and my brother we really like the dark side, the edgy stuff. The more I don't consider myself as I don't think we can ever direct a romantic comedy or a softcore drama because we like the edgy stuff. We like the dealing with the dark side of human nature. You can call it horror, you can call it drama, but we like the more complicated stuff and the edgy stuff. That's why I think the Golem. It's a horror movie, but it's much more of dark drama elements into it.
Mm-hmm. And between you and your brother, did you both grew up knowing or wanting to be in this film business?
So we grew up with a dad who was a filmmaker, and actually Yoav always knew he was that's what he wanted to do. I came from music. I played most of my life, but half of my life. But at the age of 22, after the army, everybody in Israel doing a mandatory army service. Yoav got this offer to do a music video, first time, like a really professional one, and he said, "You want to come and help me?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" And we had the knowledge from home. So we just started directing music videos, and one thing led to the other. We started directing a lot of commercials and TV promos and music videos, and eventually TV shows and feature films. Yeah.
Wow, and talk a little bit about your cast. What makes your cast so perfect?
Okay, so we wanted English-speaking actors, obviously, and we knew Hani Furstenberg, which is a very known actress in Israel, and she lives in New York in the last few years. But we thought she could. We checked a lot of actors. We did the auditions, obviously, but there was something in Hani Furstenberg, like that she was like perfect Hannah. The name of the character, the protagonist is named Hannah. and she was a perfect one for us because there was something in her eyes. She's like, because Hannah, the character in the movie, she's a woman, an Orthodox woman. She's an Orthodox woman in even nowadays, but especially hundreds of years ago, they were really oppressed, you say, and they were not allowed to do a lot of stuff, and it's very hard to see it. And there's something about Hannah who was really rebellious. She's a rebel. And her eyes, and there was something about her that we said, okay, this is our character. And she was amazing. And it's funny because at the beginning we thought, she heard it's a horror movie. And she said, no, I don't want to do horror movies, I want to do drama. And she just didn't came to the audition. We set up a meeting, and she just didn't came for the meeting. And we were so angry. And we said, oh, how come she didn't come and stuff? And then like a week later, she read the script and she said, okay, I want to try this out. So
wow. Yeah, I thought it was different because I never imagined a redhead in this type of situation.
Yeah.
So let me start wrapping things up. Can you talk about some of your future projects after this?
Yeah, we're working on, me and my brother are working on several projects now. One of them is called Plan A. It's like a project we're working for a few years now. It's a it's a historical thriller. It's a true story that happened in 1945, sort of like a revenge story. Jews killing the Glorious Bastards in a way, but it's a true story. It's an amazing true story that not a lot of people know about, and we're really working on that. Hopefully, we're going to shoot it in the next few months. We're working on a sci-fi project. We're working on another TV show, a horror TV show. So there is a lot on the plate. No.
Excellent. And one last thing. Do you like to do these type of like period specific genres where it involves like a lot of set and costumes and stuff?
Yeah, we like. I don't know. Just we like to invent worlds. We like to, we don't. I personally less related to the hyper realistic cinema. We like to invent new worlds, more imaginative. It's more creative for us. We like, there's two approaches in cinema. Like 100 years ago, there's like the fantasy approach and there's a realistic approach. And we like the fantasy approach better. We like Spielberg less than the European art house, which are great movies, by the way, don't get me wrong, but we are more attracted to creating new rules, new worlds, something more fantastic. So it's more fun. You create your own world. It's like playing with toys. It's the perfect.
I bet it is. I love the exploding heads in your world.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this interview. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.